Alright, welcome in Dharma Boots, and welcome in. Today we're going to talk about the Buddha rejecting abuse. Felt like it would probably be a good idea or a good topic to go over. Why we don't, we'll get into it. So, yeah, let's go ahead and just go ahead and get started. I am slightly tired today, in case anybody isn't, in case it isn't super obvious. But just a little bit. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, dhammam saranam gacchami, sangham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi buddham saranam gacchami, dutiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami, dutiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi buddham saranam gacchami, tatiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami, tatiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Anatipada brahmaniskam param samadhyami. Adinadana brahmaniskam param samadhyami. Kamesu chachara brahmaniskam param samadhyami. Savana brahmaniskam param
thinking 5 or 5. Okay.
Ready? Okay. So the idea here, and there's actually a couple that I kind of wanted to do. This one I think makes sense. Not so much given things that are going on in the world around us, but given things that are going on locally. For lots of reasons, essentially. So, this passage is the Buddha rejects abuse, and it is from the Sutta Nipata. And it reads as such. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Rajagaha, in the bamboo grove, the squirrel sanctuary. The Brahmin Akosaka Bharadvaja the abusive heard, "It is said that another Brahmin of the Bharadvaja clan has gone forth from the household life into homelessness under the ascetic Gotama. Angry and displeased, he approached the Blessed One and abused him and reviled him with rude, harsh words. When he had finished speaking, the Blessed One said to him, 'What do you think, Brahmin? Do your friends and colleagues, kinsmen and relatives, as well as guests come to visit you?' 'They do, Master Gotama.' 'Do you then offer them some food or a meal or a snack?' 'I do, Master Gotama.' 'But what if they do not accept it from you? Then to whom does the food belong?' 'If they do not accept it from me, then the food still belongs to us.' 'So too, Brahman, I do not abuse anyone, I do not scold anyone, nor do not rail against anyone. I refuse to accept from you the abuse and scolding and tirade that you let loose at me. It still belongs to you, Brahman. It still belongs to you. Brahman, one who abuses his own abuser, who scolds the one who scolds him, who rails against the one who rails at him, he is said to partake of the meal, to enter upon an exchange. But I do not partake of your meal. I do not enter upon an exchange. It still belongs to you, Brahman. It still belongs to you." And kind of the idea here is, on the one hand, like on a very, 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 very surface level, it's kind of like a much more mature formulation of I am rubber, you are glue, right? Kind of like the stuff that you're saying, it's just bouncing right off, bouncing right back to you, sticking to you. But on a much more significant level, like we can look at this and say, like, I can go through just about any unit, just about any company, any battery, any battalion, and I will find people who will sit there and go through time after time after time and just go and launch into tirade, launch into you didn't do this, or you did that, or you are wrong about this, and blah 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 blah. And we have a few options when that happens. We can either do as the Buddha is suggesting when that is the case, and engage, partake of the meal, enter upon an exchange. We could do that. We totally could. We could sit there and be like, "Nah, you're a jerk," right? Or something along those lines, which we may be thinking it, and if so, we probably need to maybe go a little bit deeper with what we're thinking. But the fact of the matter is, that means that we are partaking of that exchange. We are partaking of that meal. We are just as guilty of that abuse if we basically turn and kind of like launch back at them, right? If we are going to do the same thing as those who are doing wrong, then it follows that we're doing wrong. Now, this is nothing to say that this is not the Buddha saying don't correct people when they're wrong, because he totally did that, and it's totally okay, 100%. No questions, no problems with that at all. You can absolutely correct somebody and point out, hey, this is a thing that happened, right? And a big part of this is how it is done, right? So what he's sitting here saying is, when he's saying, I do not abuse anyone, do not scold anyone, do not rail against anyone, he's saying that there is a very specific way of going about that. He's saying that the way that many of us would take, which is simple and easy to understand, which is just launch right back, right? To kind of throw whatever right back at them. That is called entering into an exchange. That is, and in that case, there ain't nobody who's right. Everybody is wrong in that scenario. But there are ways to correct people, and sometimes you have to. Sometimes, especially like we see later on in other passages where monks are correcting other monks, and sometimes they don't necessarily take it as well. Maybe they choose to engage, maybe they choose to partake of that meal, and come back with, well, yeah, well, you did this, or well, you did this wrong, or no, I didn't, right? All of those are, you would hope that monks would do better than that, but sometimes monks are human beings too, right? Monks and nuns are human beings, and they are, maybe they're having a bad day and they just launch into it. Maybe it's just they woke up on the wrong side of the meditation cushion, or maybe they just maybe lunch didn't sit right with them or whatever, right? It kind of doesn't matter though, right? We can understand that they might find themselves in that kind of spot, and that's okay. But we also have to be able to take that and correct people without doing it in a way that is abusive. We have to be able to talk to people in a way that doesn't violate them, that doesn't abuse them, that doesn't go in and kind of attack them, right? And that's kind of what we're getting at here, right? If you have staff sergeant or first sergeant or first lieutenant or whoever who's coming out and being like, well, you failed at this audit and you didn't put this in the report and you didn't do this 2062 and you didn't do this form and you're such a failure, you're so wrong. Is that gonna solve the problem? Is that gonna fix anything? No, it's not. Is there a way to go back and say, hey, look, but you forgot this, right? Or maybe you didn't do this, or if it's like, say, first lieutenant / XO, a company XO, who's sitting there just going in, there are ways that company XO can sit there and be like, okay, so supply guy, you kind of missed this. We need to go back over that. Let's do it again, right? Correction, totally fine. Screaming at them and going in and I don't know, all of that, not fine, not good. And that's kind of what the Buddha is getting at here, right? There are ways to do this, but you don't want to partake of that meal. You don't want to engage or to enter into that exchange, because if you do, you're just as wrong as they are, right? And so there are much better, much easier ways to go about not entering into that exchange while still pointing out, hey, you missed this, or this needs to still get done, or maybe this is not the right course of action. Maybe you need to think this one through again. Right? There are ways to do that are not abusive, that are not attacking, that are not entering into the exchange, that allow you to bring those points up without really kind of being part of it, and without taking that on yourself. And here the Buddha is kind of showing us an example of that when he says, but I do not partake of your meal. I do not enter upon an exchange. It still belongs to you, Brahman. It still belongs to you, right? So he's not going in and saying, well, Bharadvaja, you're such a douche, which he could, right? I mean, the guy is coming into his turf. He's coming into where the Buddha is teaching and just going ham on him. The Buddha could absolutely be like, yeah, shut up, douche. He could, but he didn't. He chose not to. he had the foresight and the awareness and the capacity to look past it and say, that belongs to you. Probably you want to deal with that, right? And so maybe in our own lives, maybe we can look at it and say, okay, well, this is a thing that if I'm more aware, if I'm more, if I'm really doing my job as a contemplative, if I'm really doing my job as a meditator, if I'm really practicing, I can develop that awareness so that when people come in hot and heavy and they're just, they come in guns blazing and they're coming in for the attack, you can very calmly come out and point out, no, that's your business. We do it different here. We do things by a better way. This is what we do. So we can do that. And sometimes that is the best course of action, even when others will not engage, or even when others will enter into the exchange and partake of that meal. We have the capacity to be aware and to say, that's not helpful, that's not skillful, that's not useful, that's not going to get anything done, it's not blameless. How about we don't do that? Let's take a different course of action. We can choose correction in a way which is actually going to be beneficial, in a way which is actually going to do something of use. Yeah. Okay. I am done with rambling for now. We're going to go ahead and close out with the chanting and then the vows, and then we'll call it from there. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, dhammam saranam gacchami, sangham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi sangham saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Anati pata brahmaniskam param samayami, harinnadana brahmaniskam param samadhyami. Savana Suramirayamanya Pamanatana Garamaniskam Param Samadhyami. Alright, thanks for watching Dharma Boots. We'll see you guys later.